He didn't just announce his affair at her birthday. He staged it. Who brings his girlfriend, grabs a microphone, and humiliates his wife unless the humiliation was planned?
Say it again, Daniel. My voice cut through the music so hard the DJ actually lowered the volume. 80 people turned toward us. My birthday cake sat behind my husband, candles still burning, while his hand rested on the waist of a woman half the room thought was just his coworker. Ava smiled at me over the rim of her champagne glass. Daniel lifted his chin. Fine, he wanted an audience. I said I'm leaving you, he announced, loud enough for my mother to hear from the back table. For someone younger, someone who still knows how to make me feel alive. The room went dead. Someone gasped. My sister whispered my name. Ava laughed. Not softly, like I was the joke. Daniel expected me to cry, to run, to make him look right. Instead, I looked past him at the DJ booth and said, Marcus. The DJ's hand froze over his laptop. Play it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Marcus didn't move. For 1 second, nobody did. The candles kept burning behind Daniel. The frosting on my cake had my name written in gold across the top, Kimberly. Like this was still my party. Like this room hadn't just become a stage for my humiliation. Daniel turned his head slowly toward the DJ booth. What did you say? His voice had changed. Not loud now, sharp. A warning dressed as a question. I kept my eyes on Marcus. Play it. Ava lowered her glass. Her smile twitched, just once. Daniel saw it too, and that was when I knew he understood. Not everything, not yet, but enough to feel the floor shift under him. He laughed, too quick, too thin. Oh, this is perfect, he said, turning back to the guests. This is exactly what I mean. Drama, always drama. No one laughed with him. My mother was standing now, one hand pressed against the back of her chair. My sister Michelle had moved closer, her face pale, her jaw tight enough to crack. Daniel's business partner, Victor, stared at Daniel like he was seeing a stranger wearing his friend's suit. Ava stepped closer to him anyway, bold, possessive, stupid. Daniel, she whispered, but the room was so silent I heard it. Don't let her do this. Let me. That almost made me smile. For 21 years, Daniel had let me clean up his messes. Let me sit across from creditors when his first company failed. Let me empty my savings when he promised one more investment would save everything. Let me move his mother into our home when he was too busy to handle the appointments, the medication, the nights she cried because she was scared. And now he was letting me be humiliated in front of everyone who had ever believed we were happy. No, not letting, arranging. I took one step toward him. His eyes flashed. Kimberly, he said under his breath, think very carefully. There it was, the real Daniel. Not the charming husband with perfect teeth and a hand on a younger woman's waist. Not the man who kissed my cheek when cameras were pointed at us. Not the man who told everyone I was fragile, difficult, bitter. The one who only showed up when he thought nobody important was listening. I leaned in just enough for him to hear me. I already did. His face tightened. Behind him, Ava made a small sound. Not a laugh this time, more like air catching in her throat. Daniel turned his body, blocking me from the guests the way he always did when he wanted control. His smile came back, but it was crooked now. Everyone, he said, lifting one hand. I apologize. This is obviously painful for Kimberly. She's embarrassed. She's emotional. My sister snapped, Don't you dare. He ignored her. She has struggled with accepting reality for a long time, Daniel continued, his voice growing steadier as he found his performance again. I tried to handle this privately. I did. But sometimes honesty is the only way forward. Honesty. The word hit the room like glass. My stomach clenched, but I didn't move. I could feel every stare on my face, searching for tears, rage, proof that Daniel was right. I gave them nothing. Ava did. She smiled again, small, cruel. Then she looked at my cake and said, Maybe we should cut it before the candles melt. Michelle lunged forward, but Victor caught her arm. The room erupted all at once. Whispers, chairs scraping, someone saying, Is she serious? Someone else saying, "Daniel, stop." But Daniel didn't stop. He liked the chaos. He needed it. The louder the room got, the easier it would be to paint me as the problem. So I raised my hand. Not high, just enough. Marcus saw me. His face was gray. Daniel saw him too. "Marcus," Daniel said, suddenly stepping away from Ava, "don't touch that laptop." That did it. Every head turned toward the DJ booth. Marcus swallowed. His fingers hovered over the trackpad. Daniel moved fast, cutting between tables, champagne still in his hand, his polished shoes slipping slightly on the floor. "Turn the music back on," he ordered. "Now." Marcus looked at me. I nodded. Daniel stopped. For the first time all night, fear cracked through his face. Not guilt, fear. Ava whispered, "Daniel, what recording?" And that was when the speakers crackled. The crackle died before a single word came through. Just silence. Heavy. Mean. Daniel spun toward Marcus so fast champagne spilled over the rim of his glass and splashed across his cuff. "Stop it," he said. Not shouted. Worse. Controlled. Marcus froze again, one hand hovering, the other gripping the edge of the table like Daniel might rip the whole setup apart. I heard my mother breathe my name. Kimberly? But I couldn't look at her, not yet, because if I looked at her, I might see the pain Daniel had just put there, the confusion, the humiliation, the awful question every mother asks herself when her daughter is hurt in public. How long has this been happening? Too long. That was the answer. Too many dinners where Daniel corrected me before I finished a sentence. Too many parties where he placed his palm against my lower back and guided me away from people he didn't want me speaking to. Too many mornings where I found strange charges on our account and listened to him explain them away with a kiss on the forehead and a smile that made me feel foolish for asking. Tonight was not a surprise. Tonight was a performance. His performance. The one he had been rehearsing for weeks. I knew it the moment I walked into the ballroom and saw the seating chart. My sister at table 9, my mother near the kitchen doors, Ava at the front table, beside Daniel. Not beside her department, not beside the other employees from his company, beside my husband, under the warm lights, where every photographer could catch her laughing at his jokes. I remembered stopping at the entrance, my purse tight under my arm. Daniel had appeared beside me, smelling like expensive cologne and control. "You're late," he said. "I'm 5 minutes early." He smiled without his eyes. "Try not to start tonight." That was the first warning. Then Ava came over in white. White. At my birthday dinner. A fitted dress, pearl earrings, Daniel's favorite bracelet on her wrist, the one he had told me he bought for a client raffle. She kissed his cheek, right in front of me. "Happy birthday, Kimberly," she said, smiling at my face and scanning my dress like she was checking damage after a storm. "You look tired. Big nights are a lot at our age." At our age. She was 27. I was 42. Daniel heard it. He didn't correct her. He touched her elbow and said, "Ava helped me organize all of this." All of this. The gold balloons, the cake, the guest list, the photographer, the clients, the trap. I had looked around that room and felt something cold move through my chest. Not fear, confirmation. Because 3 weeks earlier, a bank notice had arrived in a plain envelope with my name on it. Final reminder, loan payment overdue. A loan I had never taken, a signature I did not remember giving. Daniel said it was a clerical mistake. He said I worried too much. He said he would handle it. Then he took the letter and shredded it. That night, I stopped sleeping. I checked accounts, I checked old emails, I checked the filing cabinet in Daniel's office while he was in the shower, and Ava's name lit up his phone 3 times in 6 minutes. I found transfers, small at first, then larger, then one so large I sat down on the floor because my knees stopped working. My inheritance account, the lake house account. Money moved, money hidden, money renamed like I was already gone. Then Nora called, Daniel's assistant. She didn't say hello. She said, "Kimberly, please don't tell him I called you." Now, standing in the ballroom with my birthday candles melting behind him, I saw Nora near the bar. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles looked bloodless. Daniel saw me looking at her. His face changed again. There, another crack. Ava leaned toward him. What is going on? Daniel snapped. Be quiet. The words hit her like a slap. For the first time all night, Ava looked less like a winner and more like someone who had walked too far into a room without checking for exits. I turned back to Marcus. From the beginning, I said. Daniel's glass trembled in his hand. Victor stepped forward from the crowd, his voice low. Daniel, what exactly is on that recording? Daniel didn't answer him. He looked at me. Really looked. Not at the wife he thought he could discard. Not at the woman he planned to embarrass into silence. At the person who knew. His mouth opened, closed. Then he smiled again, but it was dead now. No charm, no warmth. Kimberly, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, you are making the biggest mistake of your life. I held his stare. No, I said. That was marrying you. Marcus pressed play, and this time, Daniel's voice came through the speakers. Daniel's voice filled the ballroom. Not the polished voice he used for clients, not the warm voice he used when someone held up a camera. His real voice. Low, lazy, certain. Kimberly won't fight it if she's humiliated first. The room froze so hard it felt staged. Even the air stopped moving. Daniel's face drained. Ava's hand flew to her mouth. My mother sat down like her legs had been cut from under her. The recording continued. A faint clink. Ice in a glass. Daniel laughing under his breath. She cares too much about what people think, his voice said. If everyone sees me leave her publicly, she'll want it over fast. She'll sign anything just to make the shame stop.
He didn't lose control. He bailed his moment. Why humiliate her in public unless he needed witnesses before something bigger happened?
A sound moved through the guests. Not whispering, something lower. Disgust spreading table by table. Daniel took one step toward the DJ booth. Turn it off. Marcus didn't move. Daniel pointed at him. I said, turn it off. Victor stepped into the aisle. Let it play. Daniel whipped around. This is none of your business. Victor's face was hard. You made it everyone's business when you announced it into a microphone. That landed. Daniel knew it. His jaw locked. I kept standing where I was, hands cold, spine straight, heart slamming so hard I could hear it beneath the recording. Because this was only the first part. This was the part that proved cruelty, not yet the part that proved crime. Ava tried to recover. I saw it happen across her face. Panic, calculation, performance. She stepped toward the crowd with wet eyes that had not been there 10 seconds ago. I didn't know he was going to say it like that, she whispered. Michelle barked out a laugh. You were laughing. Ava turned on her. I was uncomfortable. No, Michelle said. You were enjoying it. People looked at Ava then, really looked. At the white dress, at her place near the cake, at the way her fingers were still wrapped around Daniel's sleeve like she owned him. Ava let go. Too late. The recording crackled again. Then her voice came through. Clear, soft, smiling. Are you sure she won't check the accounts before then? Ava stopped breathing. Daniel closed his eyes. There it was. The first blade through the mask. Someone near the bar said, accounts? My mother looked at me. I still couldn't look back, because I knew what came next, and I knew it would hurt her more than the affair. Daniel moved again, fast. He shoved past a chair, knocking it sideways. The legs scraped the floor with a scream. Marcus stepped back, but Daniel kept coming, glass in hand, eyes locked on the laptop. "Daniel!" Victor shouted. But Daniel didn't stop. He wasn't thinking about dignity anymore. He wasn't thinking about Ava. He wasn't even thinking about me. He was thinking about the money. The recording kept playing, Daniel's voice again. I moved enough to keep her quiet for a while. The lake house account first, then the joint account. She never checks until tax season. My mother made a sound I had never heard before, a broken, breathless sound. Ava whispered, "Oh my God." I turned to her. "You asked him if it could be traced." Her eyes snapped to mine. "No." "Yes." "No, Kimberly, I didn't." The speakers answered for her. Ava's recorded voice said, "But if the transfer touches my account, can it be traced back to me?" The ballroom erupted. Chairs scraped back. Guests stood. Someone cursed. Someone said, "Daniel, what the hell?" The photographer lowered his camera slowly, like even he knew this was no longer a party. Daniel lunged for the DJ table. Marcus grabbed the laptop and yanked it back. Daniel's champagne glass hit the corner of the booth. Crack. Not broken, not yet. His fingers tightened around the stem so hard I thought it would shatter in his hand. I stepped between him and Marcus. The room sucked in a breath. Daniel stared down at me. His eyes were wild now. "You don't understand what you're doing," he hissed. I did. That was what terrified him. For years, Daniel had controlled rooms by controlling the story. He smiled first. He spoke first. He explained first. By the time I opened my mouth, he had already made me sound emotional, confused, difficult. Tonight, I let him speak first on purpose. I let him call me bitter. I let him call me unstable. I let him stand beside Ava and turn my birthday into a public execution. Because my lawyer had told me one thing: let him create witnesses. So I did. I let 80 people watch Daniel choose cruelty. Then I let them hear why. Daniel leaned closer, his voice barely more than air. "That recording is illegal." I looked past his shoulder at Nora. She was crying now, silent tears, but she stepped forward anyway. "No, it isn't," she said. Daniel turned slowly. The whole room turned with him. Nora wiped her face with both hands, but her voice came out steady. "I was in the office when he said it. He knew I was there. He told me to close the door after Ava left." Daniel's face changed in a way I would never forget. Not fear this time, hatred. "Nora," he said. She flinched, then straightened. "You asked me to notarize Kimberly's signature when she wasn't present." The words hit the room like an explosion. My mother stood again. Michelle said, "What signature?" Victor looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at me. Ava looked at the exit. And that was how I knew the next part of the recording was the one Daniel feared most, because his glass slipped lower in his hand. His knuckles were white. His breathing turned ragged. And from the speakers, Daniel's voice said, "After the birthday party, she'll be too ashamed to question the loan." The word loan hit harder than the affair. Harder than Ava. Harder than younger. Because the room understood betrayal. But debt? Forgery? A plan? That changed the shape of everything. My mother whispered, "Kimberly." This time I looked at her, just once. Her face was white. Her hands gripped the back of the chair. She wasn't asking me if it was true. She already knew. Mothers know when pain has been living under their daughter's skin too long. Daniel tried to speak. Nothing came out. The recording kept going. His voice rolled through the speakers with awful calm. "She'll sign the settlement fast if she thinks everyone believes she fell apart. I need her embarrassed. I need her quiet." Ava's voice came next. "And if she gets a lawyer?" Daniel laughed, a real laugh, cruel. "Then I tell people she knew about the loan. I say she signed it. I say she spent the money." The ballroom detonated. "No," Michelle said. Just that. One word. Then she came forward so fast Victor had to catch her again. "You forged her name?" she shouted. Daniel snapped back into motion. "That is not what this is." But the problem was, his own voice had just said exactly what it was. People moved away from him, not dramatically, worse, instinctively, like he had become something contagious. Ava saw it and tried to detach herself. She stepped back, smoothing her white dress, eyes wet, mouth trembling in a way that might have worked if her voice had not already been on the recording. "I didn't know about any loan," she said. Marcus glanced at me. I nodded once. He let the file play. Ava's recorded voice came through again. "Just make sure my name isn't anywhere obvious. My cousin's account first, then mine. I don't want Kimberly's lawyer finding me before we're settled." Ava stopped backing away. Her face went slack. There was nowhere to stand now, nowhere clean. The people who had smiled at her an hour ago were staring like she had walked into my birthday wearing stolen money. Daniel turned on her. "You said your cousin was safe." Ava's head whipped toward him. "Don't." One word, sharp, terrified. Too late. The room heard it. Everyone heard it. Their beautiful little love story was cracking open in front of the cake, and inside it was paperwork, bank transfers, forged signatures, and a plan to leave me ashamed enough to pay for my own destruction. I felt the pressure in my chest rise until breathing hurt. Not because I was surprised, because I wasn't. That was the grief. The worst part was not finding out Daniel could do this. The worst part was realizing some part of me had known for years that he could. Every public joke at my expense, every private threat wrapped in concern, every time he told me no one would believe my version because I was too emotional. Tonight, he had brought 80 witnesses to watch me break. Instead, they watched him. Daniel lunged again. This time he grabbed for Marcus's laptop. Marcus jerked it away, but Daniel's shoulder hit the booth. A speaker stand wobbled. Someone screamed. The champagne glass flew from Daniel's hand, spun once in the air, and smashed against the floor. Glass exploded across the tile. The room went silent again, not because the recording stopped, because Daniel had finally dropped the image he had carried for 21 years. The charming husband, the successful businessman, the patient man burdened by a difficult wife. Gone. He stood there breathing hard, shirt cuffs soaked with champagne, face twisted, one hand gripping the DJ table like he was moments from tearing it down. And over the speakers, his own voice kept talking. "After the party, I'll take her home. She'll be humiliated. I'll tell her she can either sign quietly or I make sure everyone thinks she helped me move the money." My stomach turned. Ava covered her ears. Michelle whispered, "You were going to take her home after this?" Daniel pointed at me. "She set me up." I laughed once. It came out cold. "No, Daniel, you planned this party." That shut him up, because everyone knew it was true. He had chosen the venue. He had chosen the tables. He had chosen Ava's seat. He had chosen the moment. He had chosen the microphone. All I had done was let him walk to it. Victor stepped closer to Daniel, voice low and dangerous. Did company money touch any of this? Daniel's head snapped toward him, too fast. Victor's face hardened. There it was. Another truth Daniel had forgotten was in the room. His marriage was not the only thing he had gambled with. Nora stepped forward again, shaking but standing. "I have copies," she said. Daniel looked like he might collapse. "You what?" "I made copies after you told me to backdate the file," Ava whispered. "Daniel." He turned on her like she had betrayed him. But Ava wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at the exit. Michelle saw it first. "Don't even think about leaving." Ava lifted her chin. "You can't keep me here." "No," Michelle said. "But everyone can watch you run." Ava froze. Phones were out now. Not everyone. Enough. The photographer had stopped taking pictures, but guests had not. Daniel saw the screens, saw the red recording dots, saw the same public audience he had invited become the thing that trapped him. His voice dropped. "Kimberly, turn it off." Not a command now, a plea, small, ugly. I stepped closer, careful not to touch the broken glass. "For years, you told people I was dramatic," I said. "Tonight, I wanted them to hear you when I wasn't saying anything." His eyes flickered. For 1 second, he looked old. Not older than Ava, not older than me, just hollow. Then the recording reached the final part, the part my lawyer told me would matter most. Ava's voice came through, irritated and clear. "Fine, But I want the lake house. You promised. My mother made another broken sound. The lake house. My father's money. My inheritance. The one place Daniel knew still felt like mine. Daniel's recorded voice answered. She'll lose it if she fights. That's the point. The room turned on him completely. Not loud this time. Quietly. Permanently. Victor stepped back as if the space between them mattered now. Nora covered her mouth. Michelle started crying, but she didn't look away. Ava whispered, "You said she didn't care about it." I stared at Daniel. That was the smallest lie in the room, and somehow the cruelest, because he knew. He knew I cared about every chipped mug in that kitchen, every photo of my father on the mantle, every summer my mother still talked about like sunlight had a memory. Daniel swallowed. Then he reached toward me. "Kimberly." I stepped back. "No." One word. "Enough." Marcus paused the recording. The sudden silence was violent. Daniel stood in the middle of my birthday party, surrounded by broken glass, dying candles, and 80 people who finally knew why I had not cried. Then the ballroom doors opened. A man in a dark suit walked in carrying a folder. My attorney looked straight at Daniel and said, "Do not touch another device." Daniel turned toward the doors like he had been struck. My attorney, Samuel Price, walked into the ballroom with the kind of calm that made panic look louder. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He just crossed the floor with a sealed folder in one hand and his phone in the other. Every step made Daniel smaller. Ava backed away from him. Not far, just enough to show everyone where her loyalty ended. Samuel stopped beside me. "Kimberly," he said quietly. I nodded. My hands were shaking now. I hated that. I hated that my body waited until the room finally believed me to start falling apart. Daniel saw it. Of course he did. His eyes sharpened, hungry for weakness. "There it is," he said, pointing at me. "This is what she does. She turns on the tears when she needs sympathy." I looked down. No tears, just shaking hands. Samuel noticed too. He stepped half an inch in front of me. "Mr. Hayes," he said, "you need to stop talking." Daniel laughed. One sharp sound. "You don't get to walk in here and threaten me." "I'm not threatening you." Samuel opened the folder. "I'm notifying you." The ballroom stayed silent. Even Ava stopped moving. Samuel pulled out the first page and handed it to Daniel, but Daniel didn't take it. He stared at the paper like it might burn him. Samuel placed it on the nearest table instead. "Preservation notice," he said. "Company devices, financial records, communications with Miss Reed, communications involving the loan documents, transfers from marital accounts, and any records connected to the lake house account." Victor's face changed. Hard. Cold. Business cold. "Company devices?" he said. Daniel snapped, "Victor, don't." Victor didn't even blink. "Did you use company accounts?" Daniel's mouth opened. Nothing came. That silence did more damage than any answer. A man near the bar muttered, "Jesus." Ava whispered, "Daniel, you told me it was personal money." Daniel turned on her. "Shut up." There it was again, the real voice, the one behind closed doors. Only now there were no closed doors left. Samuel looked at Marcus. "Please keep that file exactly where it is." Marcus nodded quickly. "Already copied." Daniel's eyes flashed toward him. Marcus lifted both hands. "To the backup drive, like she asked." A ripple moved through the room. Daniel looked at me then. Really looked. Not with love, not with regret, with calculation. He was searching for the old Kimberly, the one who would smooth this over, the one who would apologize to guests for the discomfort, the one who would pull him aside and whisper, "Please stop, please don't make this worse." But that woman had died somewhere between the forged loan notice and Ava laughing at my cake. I stood straight. "You plan to shame me into signing away my life," I said. Daniel's jaw clenched. "You don't understand finances." "No," I said. "I understand theft." Ava flinched. Daniel took one step toward me. Samuel's voice cut through the room. "Do not." Daniel stopped. That single word stopped him. Not because Samuel was louder, because Daniel knew what came next if he didn't. Michelle moved to my other side. My mother came too, slower, one hand pressed against her chest. She reached for me, and I took her hand. Her fingers were cold. "How long?" she whispered. The question broke something in me. Not loudly, not visibly, just deep enough that I had to swallow before I answered. "Long enough." My mother closed her eyes. Daniel tried to use that moment. "See?" he said, turning to the guests. "She's been hiding things too. She's not innocent in this." Nora stepped forward again. Her face was wet. Her voice was not. "She didn't hide it. She documented it." Daniel stared at her like she had slapped him. Nora kept going. "You told me to backdate the notarization. You told me Kimberly had agreed and was too tired to come in. You told me if I wanted to keep my job, I would stamp it." Ava's eyes widened. Daniel whispered, "Nora?" "No," she said. "You don't get to use that voice anymore." The room shifted. That was the moment Daniel lost the last piece of control. Not when Ava was exposed. Not when the recording played. When someone who had been afraid of him stopped being afraid in public. Victor took out his phone. Daniel saw it. "What are you doing?" Victor didn't look at him. "Calling legal?" "Victor." "No," Victor said. "Calling legal before regulators call us." Ava made a small choking sound. Regulators. Legal. Loan. Forgery. The words hit her one by one, and with each one, her fantasy got uglier. She stepped toward Samuel. "I was manipulated," she said quickly. "I didn't know the full situation. Daniel told me Kimberly was abusive. He told me the money was already separated. He told me—" Marcus pressed play again. Ava froze. Her own voice poured through the speakers, sharp and annoyed. "Make sure Kimberly gets nothing. I'm not waiting another year for you to grow a spine." No one breathed. Ava's mouth stayed open. No sound came out. Michelle laughed once, bitter and low. "There's your manipulation." Ava looked around for sympathy and found none. Daniel's face twisted. "You stupid." "Finish that sentence," Samuel said. Daniel stopped. My birthday candles had burned down to crooked stubs. Wax slid into the frosting, ruining the gold letters of my name. The cake looked destroyed. I kept staring at it. Kimberly. Half melted. Still readable. That felt about right. Samuel handed me another copy from the folder. "This is the temporary financial restraint request," he said softly. "We file first thing." Daniel's head snapped up. "You can't freeze my accounts." "Our accounts," I said. He hated that. I saw it in his face. Not the betrayal, not the marriage ending, not even the room turning against him. He hated that I still had a legal claim to what he had already promised Ava. My father's lake house, my savings, my name. Ava's voice shook. "Daniel, fix this." He looked at her with pure contempt, and suddenly everyone saw the future she had been laughing her way into. Not romance, not freedom, just Daniel choosing a newer target. Ava saw it too. Her lips parted. For the first time all night, she looked at me without arrogance, almost afraid. I felt nothing for her. Not pity, not victory, nothing. That surprised me. I thought revenge would feel hot, electric, triumphant. It didn't. It felt like finally putting down something heavy after carrying it so long I had forgotten my hands were bleeding. Daniel tried one final time. He softened his face, lowered his voice, took a careful step around the broken glass. "Kim," he said. I hated that nickname from his mouth. "We can discuss this at home." My mother's grip tightened around my hand. Michelle said, "She's not going anywhere with you." Daniel ignored her. His eyes stayed on me. 21 years, he said. "You're going to destroy 21 years over one mistake?" One mistake. The affair, the humiliation, the forged signature, the stolen money, the plan to isolate me, the lake house, the recording, the lie he had said into a microphone with Ava's hand on his arm. One mistake. I stepped close enough that he had to hear me clearly. "No, Daniel," I said. "I'm ending 21 years of yours." His face went blank, then red, then empty. Samuel turned to Victor. "My office will be sending formal requests." Victor nodded. "Send them to our general counsel. Daniel won't be handling anything." Daniel looked at him. "You can't remove me." Victor's voice was flat. Watch us. That was the social consequence. Immediate, clean, public. The people Daniel had invited to admire him were now witnesses against him. His partner wouldn't stand beside him. His assistant wouldn't lie for him. His girlfriend couldn't escape her own voice. His wife wasn't crying on command. The photographer quietly packed his camera. Guests started leaving in clusters, but they didn't say goodbye to Daniel. They came to me, one by one, a hand on my shoulder, a whispered apology, a look full of shame because they had almost believed him. My mother kissed my cheek. Michelle wrapped her arm around me and held on like she was afraid I might disappear. Ava tried to slip past the gift table. Michelle saw her. Going somewhere? Ava lifted her chin, but it trembled. This is harassment. Samuel looked at her. You are free to leave. You are not free to delete anything. Ava's hand froze over her purse. Another silence. Another confession without words. Daniel looked at her phone, then at her, then at everyone watching. He finally understood. The party was over. The room was gone. The story was gone. His version of me was gone, and there was nothing left for him to control. 3 weeks later, I woke up in an apartment that smelled like cardboard boxes, lemon cleaner, and rain. No Daniel. No silent tension in the hallway. No phone lighting up at midnight with Ava's name. No voice telling me I was imagining things. Just morning light across the floor and my mother asleep on the couch because she refused to let me spend the first night alone. The investigation was moving. The fraudulent loan was flagged. The lake house was frozen in the divorce. Daniel had been suspended pending review. Nora had given a statement. Ava had been fired before she could resign. And me? I was still shaking sometimes, still angry, still embarrassed in strange little waves, like the party kept happening in pieces inside my head. But I was not broke, I was not silent, and I was not his wife in any way that mattered anymore. On my 43rd birthday, I didn't rent a ballroom. I didn't invite clients. I didn't wear the dress Daniel liked. I sat at a small restaurant with my mother and Michelle, with one chocolate cake between us and a single candle leaning slightly to the left. The server smiled. Should I light it? For a second, the room went quiet. My chest tightened. Then Michelle reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I looked at the candle. Small flame. Steady. Mine. Yes, I said. And this time, when everyone watched me, no one was waiting for me to break.
Sometimes the scariest part isn't the betrayal itself. It's realizing how many people rehearse the damage first, then wait for the perfect room to make it look accidental, doesn't it?